My dear friends, one of our many wonderful congregants wrote this week saying how good it was to see other members on site at last Friday night's closing high holiday Simchat Torah services, outdoors, masked, and in person. We plan on offering more and more worship outdoors here, weather permitting, on what is arguably the most beautiful 28-acre synagogue campus anywhere, with COVID spreading 18 to 19 times faster indoors versus distance outdoors. Outdoors is safest. But on this Shabbat Bereshit, literally, this is the Sabbath of Genesis, the Sabbath of new beginnings. I continue to think about what spirituality and connectivity mean, whether we are 20 feet away or 20 miles away. Jewish spirituality, as I see it, is a way of relating to time, no matter where we sit or stand, a way of relating to the world of reality itself. And we possess, as Jews, one of the most powerful vehicles the world has ever known to achieve the wholeness, spiritual wholeness we all seek. And it's in this week's Torah portion. That vehicle is simply Shabbat. I don't mean that Shabbat is the only way. To be sure, there are other vehicles like a study group, a peaceful march, singing, dancing, doing for others. All of these may offer moments of spirituality, but for us as Jews, Shabbat, as introduced in the Torah this week, can be a catalyst for everything else. Shabbat echoes the conviction in this week's Torah story about the first human beings, Adam and Eve. We learn that we all possess a soul, a God-given capacity to understand right from wrong, the God-given ability to seek truth and compassion, to perceive love and beauty, to appreciate the wonder of life itself. Shabbat is a weekly glimpse into what we call the Messianic age, a gentle hint of what the world could be like if we were only willing to make it work that way. The mystery of our daily existence and the spiritual dimension of all reality unfolds in our observance of Shabbat, but not in the way you may think. It's not simply a matter of lighting candles or singing Kiddush, but of absorbing the meaning behind what we do with all our mind, heart, and being. And we don't do that. At least very, very few of us do. How many Jews who light the Shabbos candles, whether Reform, Orthodox, Conservative, affiliated, it doesn't matter. How many Jews ever think about what we see in the flickering flames of Shabbat candles, besides just doing it and saying the blessing or just seeing light? Do we see the days, the weeks, and the years as capsules for all our most precious moments and memories in life? How often do we honestly reflect and taste the sweetness of life in the taste of the grape juice or wine in the Kiddush cup? What do we see in our children or grandchildren's eyes, or our spouse or partner's eyes, or our parents' eyes, across a Shabbat dinner table, or even on a Zoom or a FaceTime call? Do we ever look? Do we ever talk with the people we love about what matters most, as we are urged to do on Shabbat? Or do we just mumble the same platitudes we speak every other day or meal of the week, and then go back to looking at our phones? More than a few of the 400 of you I heard from directly, among the record number, tens of thousands who join us for the High Holy Days. More than a few hated to admit that they enjoyed services more from home than they did when we were packed in like Jewish sardines inside this Danziger chapel and the sanctuary last year. More than a few said that they could see and hear the sermons clearly and were not distracted by side conversations or people getting up from their seats. I told these folks who gave a thumbs up to our virtual platform that their praise was reassuring and also true of the in-person services they didn't or weren't able to attend outdoors. But again, perhaps the heart of the matter as we endure these flu months that are just beginning is not how we gather or the quality of the prayer book or even prayer itself. Maybe it's seeing our temple community instead, whether in person or virtually, as part of an ongoing Jewish journey to spirituality. You know, usually before an in-person began in this Danziger chapel, the talking and the chatter, it's really hard to start a service. Don't get me wrong, I was so happy to be in the presence of entire families last week under the canopy outdoors, praying in person together, and I know Happy and Rabbis Bess and Jeremy were too. But whether, and Carly as well, all of us were. But whether in person or apart, I invite you to enter Shabbat prayer, whether home or outside here, without a word of conversation. Wherever you're sitting right now, open your soul to the wonder of the world we live in, no matter what the present pain and complexity too many are facing during these out-of-control times. If you find it hard to open your soul to the positive energy still out there in this world, then simply hum a favorite melody to yourself. Or if you are coupled, just hold hands with someone you love. Or if you're alone, maybe simply close your eyes and let all the stress and tension melt away. None of us can change the whole world for everybody else, but we can change it for ourselves. All it takes is a decision to begin with ourselves on this Shabbat of beginnings, this introduction of Shabbat to start anew. The decision to begin with ourselves, I believe, may be the only that we can spiritually evolve and, yes, change our inner awareness and our outer awareness. Put simply, personal transformation begins with personal spiritual growth. And this doesn't belong to Jews alone by any means. It's certainly not restricted to a worship service you're attending right now. It depends far more, I think, on what people do in the privacy of their own homes and their own hearts. Admittedly, this process is a slow one. We're just starting the Torah again tonight. And let's be honest, many of us begin so earnestly during the High Holy Days, and then we give up too quickly. We're either discouraged because we expect so much so soon. In this context, before I close, I always think about the miracle of just one of the beautiful rose bushes in our rose garden on the other side of the main sanctuary, where we held outdoor services in the mornings for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Have you ever noticed what a miracle a flower is? And even more, what a whole bunch of flowers can be? I learned in my research for this sermon that a healthy rose bush can actually have over 100 flowers on it. And in order to enable a rose bush to produce that many roses in the garden, one only needs to start with just one small dried seed. That seed doesn't look like a rose bush. It certainly doesn't smell like a rose bush. If you don't know for sure, you might not believe that it could ever be a rose bush. However, let's say that you plant this one seed in fertile soil and you let the sun shine on it every day. And when the first little tiny sprig comes up, you don't stomp all over it and say, that's not a rose bush, I'm never going to water that scrawny plant again. Instead, you look at it and you say, oh my God, here it comes. And you watch it grow with delight. In time, if you continue to water it and give it lots of sunshine and careful attention and pull away any weeds, you might have a rose bush with dozens of magnificent roses, more dazzling than the eye can behold. And it all began with one tiny seed. My friends, it's the same in creating spirituality. The soil you plant in is your own soul. The seed is simply a tiny Jewish affirmation. Could be called Shabbat. You water it with more affirmations. You let the sunshine of Shabbat and your own divine goodness beam on it. You weed the garden by pulling out all the distractions and discouragements that inevitably pop up. And when you first see the tiniest little evidence of genuine spiritual growth, you don't stop on it and say, that's not enough. I can only do the blessings. I don't even know the songs. It's not really working. Instead, you look at the first breakthrough and you say with sheer joy, oh my, here it comes. It's really happening. Then you watch it grow. You watch yourself become somebody more spiritual than you ever dreamed you would ever become. Even if you're really old, like 50 or 70, or young, like 90. People become younger as they get more spiritual when they get older. That's what Shabbat, introduced in the Torah this week, can do for us. That, I think, is what any spiritual exercise can do for us. When the music elevates and touches our soul, when the words inspire and make us think and rethink, when a community like Temple connects us, even from home, in one phrase, Shabbat becomes our passport to spirituality. It packs a powerful message on the meaning of time. All that's missing is your willingness, our willingness, to tend to that invisible spiritual garden inside each of us. And let the deeds of loving kindness, tikkun olam, flow in beautifying God's creation, the people, places. But only each of us can address that issue for ourselves. So we begin again on this Shabbat, Bereshit, as we start the Torah anew. We can begin singing again, all you need is love. We can begin the fight to understand what freedom means. We can begin the promise and the hope for a better world. And my friends, if we do, we will build God's garden. And God's promise is that if we do that, together we will never be disappointed.